Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a period of history that's often glossed over, misunderstood, or even deliberately ignored in many classrooms. We're talking about the Islamic Golden Age, a time of incredible innovation, discovery, and cultural flourishing that profoundly shaped the world we live in today. So, why do I say they don't want you to know? It's not about some grand conspiracy, but more about how our standard historical narratives often have huge blind spots, focusing so much on Europe that we miss out on this vibrant, world-changing era. Let's set the scene. We're roughly talking about the 8th to the 14th century. While much of Europe was navigating the so-called Dark Ages after the fall of Rome, a new civilization was rising in the east, stretching from Spain all the way to India. This wasn't just a military empire, it was an empire of the mind. At its heart was a powerful idea, a directive from the Prophet Muhammad himself: think of a scholar as more holy than the blood of a martyr. This wasn't just a nice saying, it was a call to action. Rulers, known as caliphs, poured immense resources into gathering knowledge from all corners of the known world. The epicenter of this intellectual explosion was the magnificent city of Baghdad. In the 9th century, Caliph al-Mun established the legendary House of Wisdom, or Beit al-Hikmah. Think of it as the ultimate ancient university and library rolled into one. It wasn't just a place to store books, it was a vibrant translation center. Scholars from all faiths, Muslims, Christians, Jews, you name it, worked side by side. Their mission: to translate the great works of the Greeks, Persians, and Indians into Arabic. Plato, Aristotle, Euclid, Ptolemy, their ideas were saved from being lost to time, translated, and then critically examined. This wasn't just about preserving old knowledge, though. This was the launchpad for brand new discoveries. Let's talk about science. We've all learned about the scientific method, right? Hypothesis, experiment, conclusion. Well, a huge credit for formalizing this process goes to a man named Ibn al-Haytham, or Al-Hazen in the West. He was a brilliant physicist living around the year 1000. At the time, people thought our eyes shot out beams to see things. Ibn al-Haytham questioned this. Through meticulous experiments with light and vision in a dark room, the camera obscura, he proved that light actually enters our eyes. He literally wrote the book on optics, book that would influence European scientists like Roger Bacon and Leonardo da Vinci centuries later. And then there's medicine. If you got sick in Europe during this time, your options were pretty grim. But in cities like Baghdad or Cordoba, you could go to a Bimaristan, a public hospital. These were incredible institutions, far ahead of their time. They had separate wards for different diseases, surgical units, and even psychiatric wards. They were teaching hospitals, where students learned from master physicians. Ever heard of quarantine? The concept was developed and practiced by Muslim physicians to contain infectious diseases. One of the giants of this era was Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna. He was a true polymath, a philosopher, astronomer, and physician. His book, The Canon of Medicine, was a monumental encyclopedia of all known medical knowledge at the time. It was so comprehensive and authoritative that it was used as a standard medical textbook in European universities for over 600 years. It detailed everything from diagnosing diseases to surgical procedures and the use of herbal remedies. Let's move on to mathematics. The numbers you and I use every day, 1, 2, 3, 4, are called Arabic numerals for a reason. Scholars in the Islamic world adopted them from India, including the revolutionary concept of zero, and then introduced them to Europe. Without the number zero, modern math, engineering, and computing would be impossible. Imagine trying to do complex calculations with Roman numerals. It would be a nightmare. And we can't talk about math without mentioning the father of algebra, Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. The very word algebra comes from the title of his book, Algebra. He developed systematic ways to solve linear and quadratic equations, but he didn't stop there. His work on Indian numerals was translated into Latin, and his own name, al-Khwarizmi, became the root of the word algorithm. That's right, the very foundation of computer programming and the apps on your phone has its roots in 9th century Baghdad. The innovation didn't stop with the sciences. The arts and architecture were flourishing. intricate geometric patterns, flowing calligraphy, and stunning mosques with their minarets and domes define the landscape. If you've ever been amazed by the Alhambra in Spain, you've seen the peak of this artistic achievement. They mastered techniques in ceramics, metalwork, and textiles, creating objects of breathtaking beauty. This was also an age of incredible engineering feats. The Abbasid caliphs built vast canal and irrigation systems that turned deserts into fertile farmland. They perfected the use of water wheels and windmills, not just for grinding grain, but for powering all sorts of machinery, like paper mills. Yes, they learned the art of papermaking from Chinese prisoners of war and then massively scaled it up, making books cheap and accessible for the first time in history. This spread of paper and books fueled the entire knowledge revolution. Let's talk geography and exploration. While many in Europe still believed the world was flat, Muslim scholars knew it was a sphere. They calculated the Earth's circumference with astonishing accuracy. Geographers like Al-Idrisi created some of the most advanced world maps of their time, commissioned by the Norman king of Sicily, Roger II. These maps were used by explorers for centuries. Think about that for a moment, a Muslim scholar creating a world map for a Christian king in Sicily. It shows just how interconnected the world was, and how knowledge crossed cultural and religious boundaries. So, what happened? Why did this golden age end? It's complicated. There wasn't one single event. The Mongol invasion in the 13th century was a devastating blow. In 1258, they sacked Baghdad, destroyed the House of Wisdom, and threw its priceless books into the Tigris River. Legend says the river ran black with ink. At the same time, internal political fractures and the rise of more rigid, orthodox thinking started to stifle the spirit of free inquiry that had fueled the Golden Age. But the legacy never truly died. When Europe began to awaken during the Renaissance, where did they turn for inspiration? They turned to the knowledge that had been preserved, translated, and built upon in the Islamic world. The works of Ibn Sina, al-Khwarizmi, and Ibn al-Haytham were eagerly studied in the new universities of Bologna, Paris, and Oxford. The Renaissance wasn't just a rebirth of Greek and Roman ideas, it was a fusion of that classical knowledge with the massive scientific and philosophical advancements of the Islamic Golden Age. So why is this story so often sidelined? Part of it is Eurocentrism, a narrative that places Europe at the center of all historical progress. It's a simpler, but deeply flawed, story. It creates a false divide, a clash of civilizations, ignoring the centuries of collaboration, exchange, and mutual respect. Understanding the Islamic Golden Age isn't about diminishing the achievements of other cultures. It's about getting a more complete and accurate picture of our shared human history. It reminds us that no single culture has a monopoly on genius or discovery. The light of knowledge has been passed from one civilization to another throughout time, from the Greeks to the Romans, to the Persians, to the Islamic world, to Renaissance Europe, and on and on. It's a continuous human story. The contributions from the Islamic Golden Age in medicine, math, astronomy, and philosophy are not just Muslim history, they are human history. They form the foundation of our modern scientific world. From the algorithms in our pockets to the coffee in our cups. Yes, coffee was first cultivated and popularized in Yemen and spread through the Middle East. We are surrounded by the legacy of this incredible era. By learning about it, we can appreciate the beautiful complexity of our past and recognize that progress has always been a global, collaborative effort. It's a story of curiosity, of tolerance, and of the universal human drive to understand the world around us. And that's a story worth telling. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the history you might have missed. Let me know in the comments what part of the Golden Age fascinates you the most. See you in the next video.